Cardinal Kin, a Batfam podfic written and illustrated by the Royal Librarian and read by Heo Stories. Chapter 18 Inevitable. Tim doesn't break down after another evening with the Waynes. He goes home and gets to work, trying for a while to not think about the evening at all. Still, memories randomly come back to him unbidden, making him want to both laugh and cry simultaneously. But he doesn't. He's unusually calm about the whole situation, and that confuses him more than anything. Tim actually allows his emotions to reign free for once, trying to even understand what he's feeling at all. He isn't happy by any means, just glum. He can't quite place the feeling. He doesn't sleep that night either, his mind reminiscing more often than not, remembering the good times, remembering what he once had. The next morning, Tim goes into the office early, following his daily routine. He checks his work emails and finds he has an update from Tam. She's in Paris now and will be making her way over to London to spend the last 2 weeks of her vacation. 2 weeks. Damien's internship is almost over, and Tim finally plays the emotion melancholy. He isn't numb, nor is he in the depths of his despair, just accepting the whole situation. Of everything that's happened since Tam first left, spending time with his family, despite it being difficult, was good. A reminder of what he sacrificed for, what he continues to fight for. And soon enough, it will be over. He should be relieved. No more meddling siblings peeking in on him every day. No more being carefully watched. No more stressing every other minute what kind of conclusions Damien is coming to. He isn't completely out of the woods yet. At the very least, Cass saw not just that he's isolated, but how deeply he longs for family. And going off their last interaction, she also probably knows that that isolation is self inflicted. Cass has a heart of gold, but he's still, in essence, a complete stranger. His needs won't come above any the next mission. She holds the duty to help people above all, and saving lives will come before anything else. Tim sighs. It's time to prepare for an extended leave. He could do something like Fox has done before and work from another country for a few months. Just long enough for the family to get distracted by the next thing. But not yet. Not until he knows Raz will back off from Damien. Speak of the demon bread and he will appear. Damien comes into the office right on schedule as per usual. In contrast to yesterday, he grabs his laptop and wordlessly sets up shop on the couch in Tim's office. He seems determined to keep himself off toe, so Tim doesn't try to initiate any sort of conversation. Tim spends the day sorting through some menial tasks while incrementally checking the program he is running to identify any possible league activity in Gotham, specifically within the radius of Drake Industries, Wayne Enterprises, or the Manor. He has an alert set off to immediately inform him of any prominent activity, but it's been almost 3 days since the League attacked Damien, with no sign of them since. If Tim knows Ross, he's likely been either collecting intel or gathering stronger numbers. He will make his move soon, though, Tim is sure of it. In the afternoon, Tim's schedule is packed with back to back meetings, some of which he doesn't let Damien attend, namely any and all bullet related meetings. It isn't that he doubts Damien's ability. Damien has more than proven he can control his temper when the situation demands it. But if Damien is going to step into Wayne Enterprises leadership anytime soon, Tim doesn't want the board seeing him as anything less than the rightful Wayne heir. If they ever viewed him as an assistant or worse, an intern, they'd never treat him as anything else. You don't think I can handle it? Damien says flatly before he goes. That's not it, Tim replies without looking up. Damien's eyes narrow. Really? Because it feels like you think I'm not capable enough to be in the room. Or maybe you think I purposefully sabotaged you. Tim sets his pen down, frowning at him and the oddly specific insecurity. Truthfully, that may have been a concern once in another life, but not now. These past months, Damien has shown Tim far more respect than he expected, even if he does call out his idiocy with increasing frequency. That isn't it, he corrects honestly. This is about optics. If they see you next to me now, they'll think of you as my assistant, not my future peer. I'm making sure they see you as you are, capable. Damien looks away, arms crossed, and says nothing. Tim sighs, letting it be. The afternoon is gruelingly mind numbing. By the time his last meeting ends, Tim is well and truly exhausted. His lack of sleep and drained emotional bandwidth finally catching up to him. He makes his way back to his office and slumps back into his chair, letting out a long, heavy sigh. After about 30 seconds of resting his eyes, he forces himself back upright and goes back to work. He pulls up his security programs and double checks for any triggered alerts. He's only a few seconds in when he suddenly feels a presence there with him, a shadow falling over him. He quickly closes the lab program and switches back to DEI software. Damien's eyes follow the movement but says nothing. He must be truly tired if Damien is sneaking up to him that easily. Damien usually does like Tim does in the office and makes himself more noticeable than his natural inclination would usually allow. Tim frowns, surprised Damien's still here at all. It's fairly late now, about a half hour after office hours officially ended. When Tim's final meeting went late, he assumed Damien would see himself home as he's done before. Tim blinks up at him, his mind slow to comprehend his presence. What are you still doing here? He mumbles. Damien scowls. I might ask you the same thing. Tim shrugs. Meeting went late, he mutters. I get it. The moment stretches with a sort of disapproving silence. Tim doesn't have the energy to comprehend. Um, Tim starts again awkwardly. Was there something you needed? Damon nods. I'm ready to go when you are. Tim squints. To go? Home? Drake? Damon rolls his eyes. Tim scoffs as the realization hits him. You want me to take you home again? Damon shrugs. Why not? Tim shakes his head, turning back to his computer. I'm not a damn taxi service, Damien, and I still have a bit more to do here. How much is a bit? Tim sighs. Maybe 15 minutes? He's lying, it's more like an hour's worth of work, but the thought of enduring Damien's silent judgment for that long makes his skin itch. He can always finish it at home. Then I will wait. Damien decides, sitting himself down into one of the chairs in front of Tim's desk. Tim rolls his eyes, but doesn't actually protest. I'm dropping you off at the gates this time, he mutters. Damon raises an eyebrow. The gates were fixed, he says entirely too innocently. Tim glares. Nevertheless, he deadpans. Tim turns back to his work again, but swears he spots a smirk at the corner of Damien's mouth. Little shit. The sun has already set, leaving only the soft, fading light of dusk. Downtown Gotham has quieted. The rush of office workers heading home, long since gone. In the stillness, they sit in companionable silence, while Tim wraps a few odds and ends. And it's nice, comfortable, and relaxed in a way Tim rarely, if ever, experiences anymore. These past months, spending time with Damien has been healing in a way he didn't even realize he needed. It makes him mourn deep down the brotherhood that never was between them. Giving time and better circumstances to understand one another, Tim thinks they could have been friends. Tim smiles slightly, blinking away at the moisture rising in his eyes. He won't miss this. Would be so bad to enjoy it while it lasts. Damien's gaze bores into him, his eyes knowing and intense. You sound all upset, he states, sounding perturbed. Tim looks back at him, the bittersweet feeling in his chest only grown. Why would you think that? Damien hesitates. I can tell, he says simply. Tim huffs, shaking his head fondly. I got an email from Tam today, he explains. She's doing great. She and her friends are heading off to London soon. Damien narrows his eyes. And this upsets you? No, Tim denies. It's just, it made me realize she'll be back soon. Your internship will conclude in just under 2 weeks, and, he meets Damien's eyes. I'm excited for Tam to come back, but I have to admit, I'll miss having you here. Tim looks away as soon as the words are out, mentally scolding himself for just such blatant honesty. Still, he expects some sort of acknowledgement, maybe even a sentiment of understanding. He doesn't express the outright hostile glare he receives instead. I don't know why you're under the impression that our acquaintanceship, our friendship, is at an end, Damien states bluntly. If you haven't noticed, let me make myself clear. I hold you in high regard. I expect you will be a profound influence on my life for many years to come. Tim just stares for a long moment, at a loss for words. Damien continues on. Not to mention that he stops gritting his teeth. My family has taken quite a liking to you. I expect to see you regularly at our gatherings going forward. Tim opens and closes his mouth. Damien speaks with such confidence, and as if it's already a decided matter, a foregone conclusion. Shit, he didn't realize how invested they've already become. Unless this is just Damien speaking his own opinion on the matter, which is certainly possible. Either way, Tim can't let himself continue with that expectation. I I don't think that's a good idea, Tim manages. Damien stares him down, blank and entirely unmoved. Why? He practically demands. Tim blinks, not expecting such specificity. What? Why? Damien repeats slowly. Why wouldn't it be a good idea? Be specific. Tim just shakes his head, letting out a puff of air, both unwilling and unable to put it to words. It it wouldn't work. I'm still waiting on a reason, he growls, his frustration starting to show properly. Tim sighs, his own frustration growing. Look, he contends. I know Bruce, your father, has this whole thing about adopting children who need help, yeah? But that isn't me. I'm the adult. That doesn't mean you don't need family, Damien responds instantly, bluntly, as if he was prepared for that exact excuse. Again, it's like the decision has already been made and Damien is just waiting for Tim to get with the program. What exactly has Tim done these past few years to cause this? By all accounts, he has been an unsocially uptight prick with just a few exceptions that should have been overlooked for his greater history of being an asshole. Tim suddenly regrets not snooping more on the family these past few days. Because what the hell kind of conversations have they been having about him to make Damien so sure this is the inevitable conclusion? Tim phones pings with some sort of notification. They both ignore it. It means I'm capable of taking care of myself, he corrects, trying to tamp down his rising temper. Damien scoffs. Debatable. Tim glowers, suddenly reminded of a little boy who always got his voice simply because he willed it to be so. But not this time. Look, Tim says sternly, just tell the cavalry to stand down, alright? And that includes you. I'm not going to be another one of his charity cases. Something about that statement causes Damien to snap, not even trying to maintain his calm facade anymore. Why are you so insistent on keeping yourself apart from us? He bursts, jolting to his feet. Tim's eyebrows crease. Damien, we care about you. I know you care about us. What's the issue? The issue is I'm not family. Tim snaps. Damien's jaw clamps shut with an audible click, but his eyes still speak volumes. He glares at Tim with an intensity he remembers from when Damien despised him. Only now it's not in hatred, just pure anger. What, because Tim doesn't want to accept his oh so gracious invitation? He wants to laugh at the irony. Don't give me that look. Tim shakes his head with a bitter quirk of his lips. You know it's true. I'd been an intruder, an interloper, a pretender. He spits the words like they were once hurled at him, back at Damien, with more than a little vindictive spite. Damien flinches hard, stepping back as the words wound him, as he knows their significance. We both know that's a lie. Tim actually laughs this time. Is it? Yes! Tim gazes back at his computer dismissively, as if the conversation has no bearing on him. He's still smiling, but there isn't anything soft about it. It's sharp and biting. He shrugs, still not looking at him. Well, we'll just have to see. Once your internship's over, it won't be so easy for you all to come looking in on me. Damien glowers, his snarl flaring at his lips. You think because I won't be your assistant anymore, we just forget about you? Tim huffs at the irony. Wouldn't be the first time, he mutters to himself. And whose fault is that? Dame suddenly bellows. Tim's smile drops all at once, his eyes snapping to Damien's, his body going rigid and cold. I don't know what you mean, he replies quickly, as monotone and emotionless as he can, numbness encroaching at the edge of his consciousness in response to the instant wave of panic and anxiety threatening to overwhelm him. He can't mean. Distantly he recognizes the sound of an insistent beeping steadily growing louder. Neither pays any mind. You do! Damon snarls, rounding the desk, getting closer and closer to Tim with every word. And don't pretend a part of you isn't dying inside every day because of it. Tim stands, himself shaking his head insistently as he backs away from Damien, from the truth he's laying before him, the truth Tim has steadfastly ignored with all his might for days. I know you! Damien insists, steadily closing the distance between them. And despite being highly functioning, you wilt in isolation. You will be miserable the rest of your life. Is that what you really want? Tim swallows, stopping his retreat just short of the wall he senses behind him, unwilling, even now, to be cowed. His gaze is back at the teenager, now just 3 steps from him. You don't know anything about me, he rasps, his words desperate yet firm. Damien's expression flickers with uncertainty for a moment before hardening again, his resolve clear and unyielding. Don't I? He challenges. Tim frowns. I know you take your coffee black not because you like it that way, but because it's practical. You don't want to get used to the taste of anything else. Damien states, matter of factly. Tim squints at him in confusion. You speak at least 5 languages that I know about, probably more at this point, including Arabic in the League dialect. Damien goes on, unrelenting. Tim opens his mouth, but no sound comes out. The beeping continues to grow louder, only adding to the white noise buzzing inside Tim's head. But Damien just keeps going unperturbed, taking a small step closer without every statement. I know you stalked Batman and Robin as a child and found out their identities because one of Grayson's signature moves. I know you're a better detective than father, probably the best in the world. Tim is practically paralyzed at this point. His emotions too complicated to even begin to interpret. Damon has no such issues. You prefer the bow staff because it gives you the most control. The likelihood of killing someone with it accidentally is practically zero. It can't be. It can't be. It's quite literally impossible. I know you never wanted to be Robin in the beginning, but you took up the mantle anyway to save our father and return to save Gotham. I know that without you, he probably wouldn't have lived long enough for me to know him. Damien swallows, blinking rapidly against the tears Tim realizes are building in his eyes. I know that, despite everything I did to you, you still gave everything to prevent our family from having to experience such loss again. And I know, without a shadow of a doubt, that you would do it again in a heartbeat. Damien looks past Tim's face, just half a foot from him now, his expression distorted and sad. He finally meets Tim's eye again, this time with such conviction. Is it so shocking that we do the same for you at the first opportunity to get you back? Tim exhales raggedly, his heart racing with fear, anxiety, and most painfully, hope. Damie? He finally manages. Damien exhales, nodding once, something small and relieved lighting up his face. Hello, Timothy. Tim's shoulders slump, his eyes wide in a tender awestruck expression, and for one glorious second, Tim lets go of the tension that has been building in him for 9 years. But then his mind suddenly clears, as if he were just hit by a burst of frigid air, and he finally recognized the sound of the beeping and what it means. Get down! Tim grabs Damien by the shoulder and pushes him to the ground just as the window bursts open behind them. Glass flies everywhere, the whistle of open wind tearing through the office, shadowy figures clothed in black and matte leather armor with red accents revel in through the jagged openings. At least 20 of them, silent, precise, and unmistakably League. Damon rolls to his feet before Tim can blink, a snarl already curling his lip. Tell me you have weapons here? Tim pants uneven breaths, his mind trying to jump towards the imminent problem of assassins currently surrounding them, but his eyes are stuck on Damien, looking back at him just like they once did, expectant, impatient, recognizing. Drake! Tim shakes himself. Later. They will deal with it later. He tucks in and rolls beneath an incoming blow, sliding across the hardwood floor towards the panel beside the desk. He slams his fist into it. 3 quick strikes. The panel pops open, revealing a bow staff, a set of batons, and an array of throwing knives and daggers, all magnetically secured. Tim grabs the batons first, narrowly ducking under another strike, then hurls them to Damien's waiting hands. They aren't his katanas, but they'll do. Without missing a beat, Damien snatches them midair and launches into motion. Meanwhile, Tim sweeps the legs out from the nearest assassin and plants a brutal kick into their gut as they fall. Hooded heaps snap towards him as the others adjust, recalculating. Tim grabs his staff next flicking it open with a snap, and drives the butt end into the sternum of the closest attacker. A second ninja gets a kick to the knee, followed by a sharp crack of his staff to their jaw. It falls over the desk and lands beside Damien with a grunt, staff raised just in time to deflect a curved blade aimed for Damien's shoulder. Damien doesn't so much as flinch, he pivots with the rhythm of the strike and lets him block become the start of his own attack, slamming a baton into the attacker's ribs before sweeping their legs out from under them in a tight, efficient arc. They don't speak, they don't have to. Tim drops low, sweeping his staff across the floor in a wide circle. Damien jumps, flipping over Tim's back in a perfect sync, landing beside the next assassin with both baton crackling down with like twin lightning strikes. The attacker goes limp, and Damien immediately shifts, pressing his back against Tim's. Left, Damon mutters. Tim spins just in time to catch another assassin mid-lunge, using their momentum to toss them headfirst into the nearest lounge chair. Another attacker charges. Tim ducks. Damon strikes high. They move like clockwork. Not perfect, not polished, but practiced, trusted. The kind of rhythm built in 10 sparring sessions and late-night missions that technically never happened. This is impossible, Tim mutters as he ducks beneath a spinning blade. Damien doesn't answer, but the way he covers Tim's blind spot speaks volumes. And for a moment, one fleeting second in chaos, they're winning. But then the assassins adjust. One swings in close, aiming straight for Damien's chest. Tim intercepts, jabbing his staff upward into the attacker's ribs before slamming his down into the carpeted floor. Now crosses in from behind, catches Tim with a sharp blow to the shoulder that sends pain lancing through his arm. Danish whirls to cover him, but three more rush in at once, forcing them apart. The narrow advantage they held slips, swallowed by the sheer unrelenting numbers. Damien, you need to go, Tim calls out. They're after you. And leave you? Dane asked flatly, disarming two attackers in a flurry of strikes. No! A flash of movement. Tim turns too late. A dagger catches him across the side, just below the ribs. With no armor to take the blow, it cuts deep. He grunts, stumbles back a step, clutching at the bloom of pain. He stands, falters for half a second, but he doesn't drop. He drives his staff into the floor to steady himself and swings upward, catching the attacker under the chin with a satisfying crack. Tim looks up and catches a flash of a wide, panicked eyes, gone in a blink, replaced by Damien's trademark battle-ready glare. Try not to die, Drake, he snarls, driving a baton into the side of an attacker's knee before twisting to block another blade. Tim huffs. Try not to get kidnapped, he shoots back, sending a trio of throwing knives into the fray. One lands in an attacker's shoulder, another slices through a hood, the third buries into a wooden beam with a sharp thunk. His side burns in a way he knows has less to do with the cut he has received and more to do with what the blade was laced with. He knows this feeling. It's the League's specialized paralysis drug, specifically intended to down an opponent without killing them. Last time he experienced it, though, it was nearly so potent or fast acting. Damn, his stupidly non existent drug tolerance. He's faltering already, moving too slow, reacting a half second later than he should. The League feels it too. They shift tactics. A group of assassins break off in a perfect unison, weaving around Damien's strikes and zeroing in on Tim. He barely registers the change in formation before a fist slams into his jaw. He stumbles, catching himself with the end of his staff, his limbs feeling heavier and heavier by the second. Damien moves to intercept. Tim sees him blur in the corner of his vision, trying to force his way back to his side, but two more assassins cut him off, driving him toward the far side of the office with a coordinated flurry of strikes. Tim blocks one blow, then another lands across his shoulder, the sword cutting across his shoulder blade with another dose of toxin. He barely holds onto his staff. He drops to one knee, breath ragged. He needs an antidote now. Tim mentally thanks every lesson of paranoia Bruce ever taught him that he keeps an array of emergency antidotes here, but they won't do him any good if he can't get to them. A second hit knocks the wind out of him, driving him to the ground. His vision pulses at the edges, blurring in the corners. The assassins are toying with him now, relentless. They know he's slowing down, hurting him even further away from his brother. Tim grits his teeth, forcing himself back onto his feet. He thrusts his staff outward with all the strength he can muster, clipping one assassin in the thigh hard enough to make them falter. It buys him a breath, a single precious second to reorientate, to pivot on his heel, half stumbling into the wall behind him. He dives for the still open panel, ignoring the screaming protest of his muscle and the fire blooming in his side. His fingers close around the syringe of clear liquid on the bottom shelf, color-coded for easy identification. He rips off the cap, slams it into his thigh, and slams the plunger down. A sharp sting, then ice in his veins. One of the assassins lunges. Tim flings himself sideways with barely enough coordination to avoid the blade. The antidote will take a few minutes to take effect, maybe more. Until then, he's half dead weight. The double dose of the drug still slowing him down with every second. He tries to swing his staff again, but his grip falters and the strike comes out slow, clumsy. The assassin catches it midair, twists, and rips the weapon from his hands. Tim stumbles backwards, arms flailing as he tries to recover, but his legs aren't listening anymore. Another blade cuts across his bicep, swallow but jarring. He barely raises his arms in time to block a strike from his own staff, his forearm jolting with pain as metal crashes against it. He swings wide with his elbow, but he overcompensates and spins himself off balance again. He lands on his knees, hard. His body sways as he loses his ability to control his movements nearly entirely. Blood drips from his fingers, mixing with shattered glass on the floor. He blinks once, twice, commanding his body to move, but it doesn't. Another boot catches him in the ribs. His world tilts. He catches a glimpse of Damien's face across the room. Eyes wide again, but this time the panic overcomes his expression completely. Tim crumples to the floor. Though his body is barely responsive, his mind is alert as ever, allowing his perfectly functioning eidetic memory to hear the gut-wrenching aftermath of his fall. Tim Damien's voice, ragged with fury and fear. No, no, Drake, Timothy! There's a vicious clatter of metal and angry exclamations, but with Tim down, Damien's fighting alone against 20 plus assassins. There's only another 30 seconds of fighting when, thunk, it all stops at once. Tim forced himself to move, jaw clenched, teeth grinding, nerves straining against the weight of his useless limbs. He manages to lift his head an inch off the floor. A taller assassin is kneeling beside Damien's form, patting him down for weapons, while another pulls out what appears to be a small scanning device from their belts. They sweep it slowly along Damien's body until it blinks at his right forearm, right over the spot, while Tim knows Bruce implants a chip in all his proteges, willingly or otherwise. The chip acts as both a tracker and a vital's monitor. The assassin pulls out a second device, sleek, sparking faintly, and presses it directly against the spot on Damien's arm. It hisses on contact, sparks jump. Damien's body jerks slightly, even while unconscious. Tim doesn't need to guess what they've done. The chip is undoubtedly fried. The larger assassin stoops back down and slings Damien over their shoulder unfeelingly, like cargo. Meanwhile, another assassin approaches Tim's still limp form. He tenses. Leave him, the leader commands instead. Our window is closing. The prince is our priority. The League members fan out with lethal precision. retreating the way they came through a jagged wall of shattered glass, but not before the nearest assassin pivots, stoops low beside Tim, and slams the hilt of that blade into the side of his skull. A white-hot burst of pain, and the world collapses into darkness. Tim wakes with a gasp, his mind firing on the double, awash in panic. No! They're gone! No, no, no! They took him, they took Damien! Not again, not again! He did it again! He let them. He needs to. He needs to move now. He doesn't know how long he was out, but it couldn't have been long. Someone should be coming to investigate the attack on Drake Industries. He needs to be gone by then, or else they'll try to do something helpful, like take him to the hospital. He doesn't have the time. Fix it. He needs to fix it. He needs to move. Tim breathes deeply, the pain radiating through his body, helping his mind gain clarity, focus. He narrows his thoughts to the muscles in his arms and legs. Moving them takes monumental effort, but he focuses them to obey the antidote, still slowly taking effect. The more he convinces his body to move, the easier it gets. The painstakingly crawls back towards the supplies and reaches up for another vial. His coordination is shot, and his hand flails as he reaches out, knocking several other vials to the floor. But at least now he can see them more clearly. He's suddenly incredibly grateful he chose to store the antidotes on the bottom shelf. His fingers finally close around the right one. Tim brings the antidote to his mouth, biting off the cap and covering the needle. With all the force he can muster, he jams the second dose straight into his thigh. Feeling starts to return to him quicker then, sharp and painful, like an extreme version of pins and needles, but it's feeling all the same. Tim checks his watch and frowns. It's been almost 20 minutes since the initial attack, yet Tim doesn't hear any signs of anyone coming to investigate. He scours the ruined office, eventually managing to find his phone. He sighs as he checks the first notification. There is a citywide shelter in place alert. Apparently, there's been a massive Arkham breakout. His mind flashes back to the small alert he ignored from his phone during the building argument with Damien. It came within minutes of the Legate's attack. Of course. It means the bats are preoccupied, protecting the city. They probably haven't even noticed something is wrong with Damien yet. Well played, Ross. Tim looks upwards from his spot on the ground towards the other panel in the wall where his spare cardinal suits awaits him. His body is still recovering from the toxin. He has multiple injuries, and likely a concussion. But the bats have a duty to the city that must come first. Talia is still radio silent. Prue is missing, captured, or worse. Nobody else is coming. He's on his own. His hand reaches down to his side, his fingers curling around his staff tightly. I'm going to fix it, he vows. Damien's eyes snap open, fully awake all at once. His body is limp and heavy, his muscles slow to obey his commands. Paralysis drug. It's one of the many such toxins he grew up with. While the assassins that took him were smart enough to give him a large dose, his metabolism is already burning through it. Slowly but surely, he can feel the faint tingling in his limbs that indicates the effects are already wearing off. In the meantime, Damien takes in his surroundings. He's been placed sitting up against a wall, giving him a clear view of a typical Gotham-looking warehouse, empty but from some old, seemingly abandoned merchandise. It doesn't tell much. Damien closes his eyes and hones in on his other senses. The air is humid, almost cloying. There's a taste of salt in the air, along with the nauseating scent of mildew. In the distance, he can barely catch the sound of water lapping at the side of what sounds like wood and stone. The dogs, then. They're trying to smuggle him out of Gotham by river. then presumably to another location where they can fly him out to wherever his grandfather has sequestered himself. Damien evaluates his body again and finds more and more sensation coming back to him by the second. He's slow, clumsy, but he can move if he really tries, though not especially well coordinated. He fumbles with his suit jacket, searching for where his distress signal should be clipped, but it's gone. Of course it is. He tilts his head downwards, turning his wrist just enough to get a glimpse of his watch. He approximates it's been about 40 minutes since the attack at Tim's office. Tim! They must have hit him with the same drug they got Damien with. It would explain his sudden collapse, almost like his strings were cut. Damien swallows. He's fine. He must be. After all, the hell he's put Damien through the last few months. Damien won't give him another choice. Not now. Not when he finally laid it all down for him. How long will it take for the drug to wear off for Tim? How long will it take for him to contact the others? Surely they'll notice when Damien doesn't come home. But even that could take too long. By the time they even know they should be looking, how long will it take them to find him? If he gets moved to a secondary location, it will be infinitely harder for them to locate him. Unless Damon concentrates on his feet, wiggling his toes to start, then his ankles. The sensation is there, slowly but surely growing stronger. He closes his eyes, putting every ounce of concentration into bringing his leg toward his chest and grasping his left shoe. His fingers tremble with effort, still sluggish from the drug coursing through his system. It takes 3 tries to get a proper grip, and even then his nails scrape uselessly against the edge of the sole. Gritting his teeth, he forces his hand steadier, prying at the small, almost invisible seam near the arch. Finally, the hidden compartment gives. A silver and black plastic with red trim glints in the low light. The beacon Prue gave him, thumb-sized, plain, and unremarkable to anyone else. Damien stares at it. He's carried it with him everywhere since he first received it, but he's never once used it. His breath comes shallow as he wraps his fingers around it. His thumb shakes, hovers, and then presses down. A faint vibration pulses through the device. The signal is out. Will his mother be made aware? Will Prue finally make herself known after all these months of silence? Will they share the information with his family? Allow them to help? He doesn't know, but he doesn't exactly have a choice. In this state, escape is highly unlikely to downright impossible. Raz will have him. With a head full of memories of what once was, there's no doubt of his grandfather's intentions. He means to take Damien's body, wear it as his own. He can only hope somebody gets to him before it's too late. Damien would rather die than have that become a reality. Damien slowly puts the beacon back into its hiding spot, safely hidden away until they have him change his clothes. His current work attire isn't exactly inconspicuous. If he's very lucky, they won't bother for at least one location change. He's left alone for another 10 minutes or so, and Damien uses every second to try and convince his muscles to work properly. He eventually manages to stand, but only barely, shaky on his feet. That is, of course, the moment the assassins return. There are only 5 of them now, and Damien would feel insulted if he didn't feel like a colt walking on newborn legs. Still, Damien straightens himself to his full height and glares at them with as much condensation as he can muster. "You have assaulted your prince!" he sneers in the League's dialect. "We are bringing him to heel," the frontmost assassin corrects, likely the leader of the company. Damien doesn't recognize them, but that isn't surprising. His grandfather's most faithful have always been faceless. The demon's head will be pleased. The captain motions to the others, and two of the assassins step forward, restraining Damien's arms on both sides while pushing his head low so they can easily steer him forward while supporting him if he stumbles. Damien struggles against them, but their grip is firm. They drag him from the warehouse, the shadows, boots crunching over shards of glass and splintered wood, and march him across the final stretch of uneven pier towards the waiting dock. The air reeks of brine and diesel, and in the not so far distance, Damien spots the slow, ominous approach of an incoming cargo ship, its lights cutting through the dusk. "The bat will come for me," he warns, his voice edged with defiance. The captain doesn't even bother to look at him. His reply flat and dismissive. He is preoccupied. Damien's muscles go taut, their meaning cementing itself with brutal clarity, any hope of an imminent rescue fleeing from his mind. This was calculated. They came for him just as night fell, far from the help of his family, with some orchestrated distraction to keep them away. Do they even know he's gone yet? But Ross hasn't accounted for every variable. He couldn't have. A fierce, almost reckless pride ignites in Damien's chest. Ross couldn't possibly have planned for the threat as Timothy Drake. As if summoned, a low rumble trembles up from behind them, at first weaving into the distant churn of the boat's engines, nearly lost beneath the hiss of wind over the waves. But with each passing heartbeat, it sharpens, swells, demands attention. The assassins pause, heads lifting in unison. A roar tears through the stillness, an engine growling like a war cry. Damien turns in sync with his captors, just in time to see Cardinal come screaming around the side of a warehouse in a streak of red and black cutting through the fog. Sparks spit from the pier as his motorcycle skids hard onto the docks, the air thick with the scent of burning rubber and salt. He doesn't hesitate. Tim fists sharply, cutting the engine in a controlled skid. He launches himself off the bike mid-turn, bow staff already in hand, and slams into the nearest assassin with brutal precision. They go down hard, cracking against the pavement as the bike spins to a halt behind him. Damien uses the distraction to sweep the legs out of one of the ninjas restraining him and overbalancing the other, freeing himself in a second, but he's still unsteady on his feet. The two recover quickly, both trying to grapple him again. Damien dodges, ducks, and evades, but he's slow. One of them grabs his arms, twists hard behind his back. Damien grits his teeth, refusing to cry out, and then, as quickly as it comes, the pressure is gone. Cardinal has both assassins flat on their backs in what feels like a blink of an eye. Damien breathes raggedly, more relieved to see him than he'd ever admit. Cardinal gives him a quick once-over that Damien knows means he's looking for injuries. "Report," he says in his modulated voice, but a note of concern still bleeds through the chaos that sounds far too much like their father. "Drugged," Damien answers simply. "Reaction time compromised." Connell gives a sharp nod. He pulls out some sort of file and wordlessly plunges it into Damien's neck. The feeling is cold and sudden, an antidote. Connell then grabs a handful of throwing stars from his belt and gives them to Damien quickly, already pivoting on as the boat docks and more League operatives close in from the water's edge. "Stay behind me," he orders, stepping into the path of the nearest attacker. A flurry of blades comes at him from two angles, one high, one low. Tim snaps his staff up to parry the upper strike, spinning so the lower blade skids harmlessly off the reinforced plating of his thigh. "How did you find me?" Damien demands, ducking under a wild slash, taking aim on his target. The throwing star flies, embedding itself into an assassin's shoulder. Tim drives a brutal jab into another's gut, followed quickly by with a hit to the leg hard enough to fracture a bone, sending one assassin crashing into the water with a splash. "You called," is the only response he gives as he blocks another blow meant for Damien, pivoting to shield him again. Damien's grip almost slips on his star. His head whips towards Tim. But Prue gave me. What do you think gave it to Prue?" Tim answers unfalteringly as his staff catches another strike midair, and he uses the rebound to slam the butt into his attacker's chest. Damien gapes as he hurls a second star into someone's knee, forcing the assassin to crumble, his mind grappling with all the implications of that. "How did you get my mother to trust you?" Tim exhales sharply with an exaggerated huff. "Trust is a strong word." Damien stares, legitimately dumbfounded. Another ninja rushes him from the side. Tim sees it and moves fast, throwing himself between Damien and the attacker, taking a shallow slash across the side to drive his staff into the ninja's solar plexus and then their head, dropping them fast. Cardinal staggers but stays standing, gearing himself up for the next bout. "You have so much explaining to do when we get out of this," Damien growls. Tim lets out a groan that Damien is certain has nothing to do with his accumulating injuries. "Father?" Damien prompts as he catches a throwing star alive midair and tosses it back from where it came, burying it into another assassin. "Raz instigated an Arkham breakout," Tim grunts, twisting to block a blade with the metal shaft of his staff. "The others are handling it." "You didn't call for backup?" Damien barks, aghast, ducking low as Tim falls over him, kicking two attackers away in one fluid motion. Tim scoffs. "Like the last time Cardinal helped you went so well?" Damien scowls. "Your own fault," he grunts harshly, enunciating each word with another throwing star. Tim doesn't entertain that with a response, practically ignoring Damien altogether, like he can't process the words right now. His breathing is growing heavier, Damien notes, his grip a little tighter on the staff. He's slowing down. Damien tries to rejoin the fight properly to give him some reprieve. He aims a sharp kick at an assassin's knee, but lacks his usual power. The attacker catches his ankle mid-motion, and just as fast, Cardinal's staff cracks against their skull with a sickening crack. "Don't push it," Tim warns, breath rough and unsteady. He doesn't have time to say more. A sharp whistle splits the air, a signal. They both freeze for half a second, long enough to register the movement in the shadows. A dozen more assassins melt into view from within the boat, weapons glinting, fanning out on their left and right and slowly trying to close in behind them. Tim's head swivels to side, chest rising and falling too fast. Damien straightens, eyes narrowing. "We're not going to win this." "You're still compromised," Tim says tightly. "Get cover." "No!" Damien's voice is hard, stubborn. He steps closer to Tim, shoulders squared. "Don't you dare!" Because he knows what Tim's doing. He sees it in the way his brother shifts his stance in front of him, anchoring himself like a final wall. "Get to the bike," Tim orders, not looking at him now, eyes locked on the advancing line. "You get back to the cave, you stay there, I'll buy you the time." Damien's throat closes. "Don't be stupid," he mutters stubbornly. Tim wavers just slightly, swaying where he stands, the slash on his side bleeding freely now, the strain of too many hits making his limbs tremble. Damien shakes his head, panic bubbling beneath his fury. If I leave you now, you could die." "If you don't leave, we both will." Tim's voice is steel, unyielding and final. "I just got you back," Damien pleads, his words tearing out of him, raw and desperate. But Tim is unmoved. "You need to go now." Damien looks at him and sees it. His eyes hold a calm resolve that chills Damien to the bone. He's already made his choice, already accepted this ending long before they even stepped into the fight. An inevitable conclusion. "You can't make me!" Damien snaps, eyes burning, his voice trembling on the edge of rage and grief. I'm not arguing with you, Damien! Tim bites back, voice crackling through the air like a whip. Go! He shoves him hard. Damien stumbles back, boots sliding over the slick stone, the scent of blood and damp earth rushing into his sinuses. But before he can charge back in, the leak closes in. Tim launches himself forward, moving like a lit flare thrown into a storm, his staff carving wide arcs that force every pair of hostile eyes towards him. Damien staggers further back, heart pounding in his ears, until he nearly trips over the bike lying behind him. He blinks down at it blankly, yanking it upright on instinct. His fingers fumble on the ignition before the engine roars to life. He turns back towards the fight and half wishes he didn't. It's chaos, blades flashing, Tim's cape snapping through the air, the dull thud of impact and hisses of pain as Tim forces them all to focus on him and only him, the living embodiment of a final stand. Damien can only watch helplessly as an assassin slips past Tim's guard, sinking a silver dagger into the upper left side of his torso between the ribs. Tim gasps, the air ripped from his lungs. No! Damien shouts, darting forward, but Tim plants his feet, turning just enough to catch Damien's eye, forcing his voice out like a roar that cuts through the mayhem. Go! Damien obeys thoughtlessly, swinging a leg over the bike. But even as he does so, he's frozen, his hands still on the handlebars, unable to tear his gaze away from the tragedy unfolding before him. Tim, battered and bleeding, falling to his knees as his injuries overcome him, yet still a force to be reckoned with against the relentless tide. Time seems to slow, the chaos blurring around the edges, leaving only the sharp, unbearable clarity of what Damien is witnessing. And he finally understands. Every sacrifice Tim has made, every wound silently borne, every risk taken in the shadows to protect the family floods Damien's mind in a relentless rush of memory and feeling. For as logic minded as Tim likes to pretend he is at his core a creature of unfathomable depth and emotion. And he's selfish. It was just never just about protecting the family or even the greater good. It was personal, intensely, painfully personal. Tim didn't just do it for them, he did it for himself because he couldn't bear it any other way. Because he loves Damien as much as he loves any of them. Damien sees it now with perfect, piercing clarity. Tim is ready and willing to die right here, right now, for him, without hesitation, without regret. And Damien can't take that from him, no matter how much he wants to. The knowledge settles heavy in Damien's chest, crushing and liberating all at once. He's helpless to it. Helpless but to watch as another ninja steps forward, raising his sword high above Tim's neck. Their aim is sharp and true, ready to finish the job. No, the captain snaps sharply, voice cold and commanding as iron. Catching the assassin's hand mid-swing, the demon's head wants him alive. Tim collapses nonetheless, his knees buckling as either the pain, exhaustion, or bloodlust overwhelms him. And one of the waiting assassins catches him with practiced ease. Damien feels the weight of every gaze shift to him, dozens of cold, unblinking eyes seizing him up. Damien stares for half a second too long, feeling like he's being stabbed himself for turning away, his fists clenched so tightly they tremble, muscles taut with fury and grief. But if he doesn't move now, if he hesitates any longer, it will all be for nothing. He grips the bike with desperate strength, palms slick with sweat and blood, and revs the engine, heart hammering in his chest, sprinting away before the leak can advance on him. He doesn't look back. He can't, because he knows whatever he sees will make him turn around. The bike roars beneath him as he speeds into the night. End of chapter 18. Only 6 more to go. I hope you enjoyed it. Uh, yeah, in the final stretch now, basically. Thank you for listening, and till next Friday. Bye.